Welcome back to another episode of the Storm Before the Calm podcast. I am your host, Lori Grace Bailey. Today, I have probably my longest friend ever since I've been in Arizona. So, what is that, Liz? 2008 or something. Liz Kemp. She is a storm chaser, longtime photographer. As long as I've known, has always been just an everything photographer, landscape photography, portraits, weddings, you name it. Liz has pretty much shot it. And you are also Liz is also the webmaster for the Arizona Sonora Desert Museum, which is a really cool thing, especially if you like seeing the Raptor free flight and a bunch of other cool stuff at the Desert Museum. Desert Museum is, what is it? One of the top premier tourist destinations in Tucson.
It's usually the number 1 or the number 2 with TripAdvisor for tourists in Arizona.
Everybody loves to see it. So thanks for coming on, Liz. We finally get to sit down and chit chat a little bit in front of the cameras.
Yeah, it's probably a first that we've done this. I mean, normally we're chit-chatting in person, so this
I
is a little
know, I
different for
know.
me.
Well, and the last few times has been bowling, and Liz has been beating me in the bowling on the bowling lanes. That's okay. We go to have fun, but you've been doing a lot better than I have, actually.
Well, it's a lot of different factors, I'm sure.
I think it's just because we just go to have fun. I think if I stopped having fun, I probably would stop bowling because I really need to just be able to enjoy it. I think we have a fun time though. A little bit of
Yeah,
snacks and
yeah, we definitely have a fun time for sure.
it is good to have friends that have had such a history for photography, isn't it? Like, I mean, Tucson is filled with so many amazing photographers, and then people who also do other things with their photography, but storm chasing in particular. I mean, how did you come about? I mean, let's go there and find out, when did you, first of all, when did you develop a passion for photography? Because even when I met you back in 2007, 2008, you already had, was it reflect, I'm going to mess it up, wisdom photography at the time, right?
Well, I didn't have it under that name, but yeah, I was
Okay.
starting to do photography. Sure, yeah, I think I met you in January of 2008, or at least in person, but, I don't think we did photography together for quite a while.
Hmm.
I mean, going way, way back, if you wanna consider when I got my first, what I call real camera, first camera of my own, that was back in Paris in 1982.
Oh my goodness.
I still have that camera. It was a little Pentax Auto 110. It took 110 cartridge film, but it had interchangeable lenses and all sorts of stuff that DSLRs have today.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so I went round in Paris and took artistic photos in black and white of graffiti and things. So that was probably the beginning for sure.
Wow. And so even then, I guess, did you actually have to take your film in to develop, or did you ever do it yourself?
I sort of helped other people do it, but it was so cumbersome. It was just a lot easier to drop off the cartridge
Right.
at a chemist or a pharmacy and have them do it. Yeah, it was just easier to do that.
I don't think the younger generations will ever know what those little stands. Remember those little stands? 1 hour develop, and you would be
Mhm.
driving, and in a strip mall you would see just a little tiny hut, and you would just drop off your film there and you could come back for it. I don't know if they had that in England or in Paris. Did they even have those back then? I guess they
I
had it
don't
everywhere.
remember them, but, I mean, I know that whatever you got wasn't the highest quality. It was, quick turnaround and here's your pics.
Right. If they came out at all, because of course, if you ever overexposed.
Yeah, I mean, I know that the photos my mother took of me as a child, like some of my head is cut off or, things are off to the side, but I appreciate the fact that she did take the photos so that I have those childhood memories to look back at.
Yeah, yeah. I love seeing some of those photos that you share of your childhood, and the as far as like aesthetic quality, like nobody cares, right? We're just glad that we have those older photos of the past and when we were younger. I have very few, and, but like the one that I have of my dad of when he was in the Air Force is a keeper. I think we've talked about that as photographers, is that photography means more than just, oh look, I took a great photo. Let me see how many likes I can get. Remember the days where we loved the photo because, oh my goodness, what would I do if the house was burning down? People used to say, I would go for my photo albums, right?
Right, exactly. And, my house did burn down and I lost a lot of photos. So
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I didn't even
that's
put two and
okay.
two. Oh, I was gonna say that's a real burn, but I would just step on my toes yet again. My goodness.
I can
Wow.
laugh about it now. It was a long time ago.
I appreciate that. Thank you for bearing with me and my inability to put two and two together sometimes. But goodness gracious. But what was your first digital camera since you had the original 35 millimeter or the 110? What was your
Uh,
first digital?
First digital, I think, was I went to Costco in 2010 and they had a
Wow.
bundle that was the Canon T1i.
Okay.
It was a Canon Rebel and came with two lenses and
Yeah.
it was $999.
That was a lot of money, but I mean,
It was.
taking the
I mean, you can buy better cameras for less now.
right.
For some things, inflation has gone backwards.
What was it, like a 12 megapixel or something, or was it more?
Something around that, I don't remember exactly, but I mean, it was good enough for what I wanted to do. It was just play
Right?
with. Yeah,
Absolutely, and I had you said you had the T1i, and I had the
T1 right,
XTI, which I think was a
just
couple of
before it.
years right before it. It was one of the first digital Rebels. I just remember they had the digital Rebel and then the Rebel X and then XTI or something like that. I don't know. I lost all the terminology, but yeah, it was a 12 I still have it too, and I'm like, I need to take that storm chasing and see if I can with the old crappy 55, what is it, a millimeter kit lens? I think a
Yeah,
18 to
there was
55.
I think it was the something to 55 and then the 55 to 95 or something, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I see. I had one of those too, but that was really about the same time that I fell in love with photography too. And then, you were using it to shoot animals and all that good stuff. But then you also fell in love with storm chasing too, which is, I'm sure people are like, show us the money, show us the
Well,
stuff,
I mean, we can leave the word chasing off because my first lightning photos were taken from my front porch. I didn't even leave the house, so you can't really call it chasing, but
Yeah, I guess so. I call it backyard chasing, and
yeah.
that's okay. We have a lot of people in the community, even some younger folk who I've interviewed that aren't able to even drive, and yet they're so passionate about weather. And I just think that's the coolest thing that kind of the guardrails are off, not the guardrails, but there's less gatekeeping like, "Oh no, you're not someone special." Who cares? If you love the weather and you are in a great spot as well in Tucson to be able to capture that lightning. Did you figure it out when you first started off? Were you like, okay, how am I going to set this camera to actually capture a bolt of lightning?
Yeah, I find that I learn best by figuring stuff out myself rather than
Mm,
learning from other people, and I have that sort of brain that does math in my head. I was like, "Okay, aperture, exposure, shutter speed, ISO," and I figured it out. It sticks with me better that way. If I just have somebody tell me how to do it, it's gonna disappear from my memory.
wow. Yeah, I get that too. I really need hands-on, even watching online stuff. I need to be able to look at when I set up my Sony camera, a new camera, I've got to watch Tony and Chelsea or something like, here are the best settings I do to set this camera up. And once I can actually get into it, and I'm a tactile person, I need that kind of response as well to really. When did you, even though you had that camera, when did you actually start to develop that passion for weather, passion for storm?
I mean, I wouldn't even have thought of storm chasing in England. It just wouldn't be a thing. But yeah, I mean, I guess, I mean, you were around, you were doing it, and it was just like, well, this is another thing I can do with my camera. And look,
Yeah.
there's thunder outside. I'll just go outside and see what's going on. So,
Yeah,
so
that's
probably, I don't know, I want to say 2015 maybe that I would actually
mhm.
intentionally go
Yeah,
out.
same. That was about the same time with me too, and we both were like, "Hey, this is fun. Let's get
Right.
after it."
Yeah, I think we sort of both came to it independently and then realized that we were both doing it.
Of course. Yeah, I think we realized like, "Hey, this little thing can capture some in addition to portraits and stuff." And you being at the Arizona Desert Museum, how many years, if you don't mind me asking, have you been employed there as the I
See,
think it's
it's
always
called
been the webmaster, right?
yeah, I've always had the same job title. It's
That's
been
awesome.
20 years and 1 month, and, although I've always been titled webmaster, I've worked in different departments, the IT department, the graphics department, the finance department, the
Shoot.
marketing department, but I've always
Right.
done exactly the same job. I've just reported through a different structure.
Gotcha, gotcha. I've seen you doing audio visual at some time, and I'm sure that the employees are all like, "Hey, we need someone to take care of this or something," and someone will jump at the necessity to get the job done.
Right.
It's a
Yeah.
big gig to do.
Yeah, we have to
So
be flexible.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I know you've had to do that, and it's kind of fun watching. I can almost laugh up from the side, like, "Haha, you're doing this now." Oh, what do you mean you're doing? What do you mean you're doing this event? You're not even the photographer. You're like, I am now. It's just,
Right, or I'm on a golf cart driving people around,
oh
that's
yeah.
part of it too.
Well, security's next. Maybe they'll give you a badge and a gun. And no, I don't think
I
so.
don't think I quite have the background for that.
Okay, all right, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. So, how did you develop that passion? Like, what made it special? What made chasing and capturing extraordinary skies special to you?
I think in a way it was other people in the community, the fact that I could do something that to me wasn't terribly complicated, but when
Hmm.
I shared it with other people, they were amazed that I could
Yeah,
produce something like that. It
right.
gave me a sense of satisfaction, a sense of, producing something that other people were in awe of, and I was like, "Well, let's do more. Let's do more."
Heck yeah. Plus, it's also so limited out here in people will see those images and they think, wow, I need to go to Arizona in December to see this. You're like, no, not
No.
going to happen, buddy. We
Right.
get
Yeah, it's
3 months out of the year basically to get it
well
done.
well, 3 if we're lucky these days.
I know, right? Yeah, exactly. And the monsoon is so finicky, and there are years where monsoon giveth and taketh away. Can you share one of your most memorable experiences while chasing storms or
Well,
extreme
yeah,
weather?
probably it is the one out by cells that you're thinking of.
I know that that's one, definitely one of them. You mean the one where you almost got domed? Is that the
Yeah,
one?
so, I think we might see that photo later on.
I think we should. Yeah, if you're going to tell the story on that one, if that's the one, I'm going to bring that. Is that the two bolts that cross?
Yeah, yeah,
That's awesome. I'd love to share that even right now. You can
sure,
tell me
'cause
about that.
I send a couple of others that go with it. I was,
Is that the one?
yep, that's the one.
My
So
God,
I was
I
out
remember.
in cells, which for people who aren't familiar with the area,
Same.
it's mostly reservation, I would say.
Right.
It's
Look at
dominated
that.
by reservation, and it's pretty isolated.
Hmm.
And I don't know who it was. It might have been the sheriff or a park ranger come up and just check on me, make sure I was okay off to the side of the road. I'm like, "I'm
Oh
fine."
my goodness.
And I was looking at radar, and I could see that the green hadn't even got to me, and the orange and the yellow and the red where all the storm was, where all the lightning was falling was, quite a ways off. I had 2
Right.
cameras out, 2 tripods, and I could see it was moving pretty fast towards me. So I thought, "Oh,
My
I should pack
goodness.
up and retreat to a safe distance." So I picked up 1 tripod, folded it up, um, and then leant into the car to put that camera on the passenger seat, and as I
Holy
was leaning
cow.
into the car, I heard this huge, huge crack of thunder, and, that was what you see in the photo there, and so I had the other camera and tripod in the car in, like, 30 seconds,
I can
and
imagine. And
yeah,
you would
so
think, well, it doesn't look that far, Liz, right? If people don't understand how wide you're shooting, and then they let me go back and we'll see these. Are these the radar for that?
yeah, so the other one first. Okay, so there you can see that I'm off.
Gosh.
My little dot is off to the right of the
So this
screen
is
there.
you. I mean, there are
And,
people that don't that know.
I mean,
So yeah, this is
okay,
you.
stuff is happening, it's time to pack up. So that was
Sure.
when I started to pack up, and you can see there's another red dot. I'm not sure who that was up there,
Up there, yeah.
but yeah, so that was when I decided to pack up, and then the next radar screenshot, that's the 4 bolts that you see in that photo.
Oh, you
And
mean
if you know
right here
how
then, or it's these
right,
ones right here
exactly.
too. But
Yeah.
there's also an indication that one landed behind you as well. See the bolt in here?
Well,
My
I already had
God.
the second camera in the car, so what can I say?
Shoot.
But yeah, it was
Wow,
definitely time to pack up. That was pretty close. And there was maybe 5 minutes between those 2 radar screenshots.
that's
So,
fantastic.
yeah,
Well,
that
I
was
mean, the gods did not choose you to,
right.
to discharge their. Is this some refraction on the lens too from
I
the lightning?
probably I mean, I don't know what else it would be.
Almost like a
It
ghost of
probably
some
is.
sort. It's a ghost.
But yeah, I got in the car, I made sure that nothing was touching the ground, I knew to keep windows closed. The first thing I did before I started the car is I texted you, and I think I said something like, I got the shot," and then I sent
Yeah,
you that back of the camera photo of it, and I think you had trouble spelling in your reply.
really?
Yeah, it was like a 52 word random letters reply.
But yeah, yeah, just like, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my," just
Right,
blah, 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 blah.
exactly.
That's incredible.
But yeah, the next thing I did was drive about 20 miles further east.
You knew it was too close. I mean,
Yeah,
we
it was
talk about, mitigating risk, right? And, you're still here, so that tells me that you're doing something right, that
right,
we're doing something right. We haven't been domed. We haven't been
right,
well, I have been struck, but we
right,
won't go
and
there.
that was early on in my chasing life, so, I probably would do things a little differently now.
Oh, that was in 2020. Wow, has it been that long already?
I guess that was yeah, probably yeah, so early pandemic. So yeah, so our friend Devin Russell, he was with his wife. They were set up behind the gas station in cells a few miles away, and he caught those same bolts. And you can see from his photo, it's I mean, it looks like he's close to it, but he's several miles away.
Yeah,
I was
you could,
right
this
under.
one. Yeah, this one is the one where you could. I love that when you get. Don't you love it when you get that purple fringing into the actual lightning bolt? You know that it's dark enough. First of all, even if it's a daytime bolt, when you get that purple fringing, especially coming out of the cloud, I
Right.
don't know.
This was so close that how did I not blow it out? I must have had my settings pretty low in the first place.
Well, you nailed the settings, so I mean, you nailed that shot at least. Can you imagine how mad you would have been if you looked at the back of the camera and all you saw was white?
Yeah, and
That
that
would have
could have
been
easily happened.
that would have been really challenging. Speaking of challenging, you and I have both or busted, not bombed, but busted so like it's so frustrating. You know me better than any other chaser out there, than anybody any other friend out there. And you know that I used to really take it to heart. I think I'm a lot better now. I think I'm like you're like you had a really bad day, but you seem to be, handling it better than you used to, or better than I would expected you to handle. What about you? How do you mentally prepare yourself to get out there and go? I know you've also had some days where you just give it your all and then everything, and you're not alone, but everything seems to go wrong. You get to the wrong spot and some rando person is in the middle of somewhere that nobody else is and getting the most epic shots, and everything that you did from planning to getting your gear ready, it was all for nothing, but it really wasn't. It's how you feel. How do you mentally prepare yourself to avoid that now and
It's hard. I don't think I do anything beforehand because I'm always too optimistic to think that that's gonna be the case.
right?
But, I mean, if it does turn out to be one of those days, I do feel it very intensely, but some part of my brain, that sort of higher than the emotion part, says that this has happened before, and I will
Mhm.
get over the emotion, and I won't feel like, you know, throwing in the towel and never chasing again. I
Yeah.
just have to give it 24 hours or whatever. But certainly when I get home, those emotions are still pretty raw, and I
It's
just have to
tough.
talk myself out of it.
Something that I'm really proud of you is that you have grown into your own abilities too to be able to do that as well. Because you do that, you learn, you integrate everything that you've needed to learn to go out there and forecast and do it all. And then all of a sudden I see you out by Pisanimo, which I think is how you pronounce it, but I see your dot, your spotter dot already somewhere out way out west. And I'm just like, my goodness, that's a big storm coming towards Liz. And you end up pulling off these crazy shots. We're going to show some other shots too in a little bit that are just crazy, and it's because you seize the moment. You really saw something like the one over Wildcat Mountain. I mean, if you weren't pointing in that direction, you would have missed some really epic shots.
And I know that as far as the forecasting, I'm not one of the top tier, and I admit that. I think it's because I actually have a background in computer modeling of
Mm,
fluids and thermodynamics, which you think would be
no
a great
kidding.
background for
Wow.
weather forecasting. But I think it's because the way in which I've used that professionally, it's been more of an exact science, and weather will
Mhm.
never be an exact science.
So
And I
true.
think that my frustration with, well, you can, you know, you're never going to model the atmosphere of the Earth with 100% accuracy.
Mhm.
It's hard for me to get into that side of it, although I
Right.
do have a mathematical brain. But yeah, I mean, and obviously the community is an important part of that. You listen to what other people think and what other people are forecasting, and you give weight to what they say. You don't always believe everything you hear. And then, of course, I'm one of the few, I think, that, is lucky enough to live on the southwest side of Tucson. Eh,
Totally.
I have a I have an advantage, a
Advantage,
head
yeah.
start for storms that, come up through those mountains, Abercrombie and Kit Peak. I'm halfway there, so that helps too.
Yeah, just like I have the advantage of being closer towards the US-Mexico border where all the big storms tend to bubble up first over the afternoon, you have that ability to get, you even have a building close to you that you can get to and get onto the top of it. But you have this one building that you have captured some really crazy shots from the top of the parking lot garage too.
I do, that's Casino del Sol, on West Valencia. About a 5-minute drive from my house. Obviously, it's frustrating when you have to drive all the way up the 5 floors of the parking structure to get to the
Yeah.
roof. Once you get there, you have probably, oh, I don't know, 200-degree views, unobstructed, and then some views to the north as well, a little more obstructed, but you can get those storms too. And it's a great place to shoot from.
Other people seem to be doing that now too. Now I've noticed now that you started doing that, other people also will tend to congregate in that area, knowing that they're not going to be stuck in the mesquite. Because the one thing that is all too frustrating is the mesquite, right? Especially out there by Highway 286 and Ajo Highway. And I know people that watch, so many people from around the states don't really understand. They think Arizona desert is flat, wide open spaces. It's not like that when you're a photographer, Liz. How frustrating can that be? I don't think people know about that, but mesquite is not your friend when you're trying to get landing points as a photographer, right?
Yeah, you either have to say, "Oh, never mind about the landing points, I'm just gonna get mesquite as a foreground," but
But
I'd rather have prickly pear or saguaro as a foreground.
of
But yeah,
course,
getting landing points is tough when you've got that brush for sure.
something that you do, though, that a lot of other people don't, you and I have learned kind of together over the years. Why don't we go scout new locations when we're not chasing? I think that's something that's almost just a given. It's an easy secret to unlock. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. If you can find the time to do that and just, drop those pins in Google Maps and remember them for next time. And it's fun learning more about Arizona that way as well.
Right, right. I've seen you do that, and now I know, like, if I see you in a certain location, I'll see your spot or dot or something, or I'll see where you go, and I'm like, "Oh, I know where she's at," because there's just a little bit of an elevation for you to get up and shoot above all of that tall the mesquite. People don't know how tall the mesquite get out here in the Sonoran Desert. What is it, 20-25 feet? I think that some of these can grow.
Well, I have one in my backyard that's taller than my house. So yeah.
Crazy, crazy. So yeah, they're real trees. And in El Paso and West Texas, the mesquite really literally is only about 3 or 4 feet tall. But out here, the Sonoran Desert is really vibrant. And working at the Arizona Sonora Desert Museum, that's given you a real privilege to be able to integrate the beauty of the Sonoran Desert. Like, how do you incorporate that, and how much beauty in addition to the storms do you look to combine when you're trying to create this composition?
Well, as I mentioned, I always try to look for something interesting in the foreground that isn't going to obscure the storm, but is going to give some interest to the resulting photo. And certainly working out there at the museum makes that a little easier. There are also many vantage points at the museum where you have
Oh, that's
a
right.
good overlook over the Altar Valley and you can see the storms coming in. It's a great spot to do photography of all kinds, really.
And people don't realize that sometimes in the transition season, late in the monsoon, we get supercells in that Altar Valley. They tend to spin up, and Trey Greenwood has even talked about that. Where I remember us being at a monsoon con where Trey was talking about that open, super open, flat area is more conducive in southern Arizona for land spouts. And I remember one particular picture you were at work and you sent me just a phone grab of the valley, and there was just that green meso as this supercell was spinning off into the valley, and I was like, "I have got to get that way. That is incredible."
Yeah, there's some great structure that's come through. Like I say, I'm not as much a weather nerd as some people are, and sometimes I'll look and the only way I can describe it is like, there's something wrong in the sky, because
Right?
the sky just looks so different from the way it normally does, and,
Yeah.
that means something's gonna happen.
Speaking of that location that just almost adding to that, you met a quite famous, world famous storm chaser there one day out there. Can you talk about that? I'm sure people
Oh,
have never
sure,
heard about this.
yeah, that's I mean, it was embarrassing at the time, but, it's fine now. So I was not too far from home, probably about 3, 4 miles west of where I live. There's a little airfield called Ryan Field out on Highway 83. And I've been shooting to the east of that. And then I realized that I needed to move west. So I moved west to another little tiny road that goes off Highway 83, and I saw there was a beat up car already there. I thought, "Oh, that's strange. I don't recognize it. Is it another chaser? What's going
Yeah.
on?" So I pulled in Postvale Road, and I pulled back out, and I stopped, and I saw this guy with rather weird looking camera, little short tripod, and so I was polite. I said, "Do you mind if we share this space?" He said, "No, that's fine." And he said, "You just missed a tornado." And I was like, "What? No, we don't know." But I mean, I didn't say that out loud. I didn't want to be
Right.
rude. So I was
Who's
like,
this guy?
Are
He
you
doesn't know. We
sure?"
don't get tornadoes out here. What is he
Right. Yeah,
talking
we
about?
don't get tornado. He said, "Yeah, it was just north. You just missed it by about 10 minutes." I'm like, "Okay." I played along. And so we chatted a little bit and he said he was out here. He's normally based in Texas, but he was just out here for some monsoon. And he said his name was Hank. Which meant nothing to me, absolutely
Yeah,
nothing. This
yeah.
was this was early on in my career,
Right.
and he was told me all about his camera, and he was just shooting video. He didn't have a lightning trigger. He obviously didn't know what he was doing.
Sure.
So anyway, so then I went back home and I took a little selfie of the two of us together, and I went back home and I
Oh,
posted
that's
it on
cool.
our Tucson Storm Chasers Facebook group. And then, "Oh, I met this tourist guy. He's trying to storm chase. He said his name was Hank. He's from Texas." And very quickly people put me right and that he did know what he was doing and that yeah. So that was how I met Pecos Hank.
Pecos
And then
Hank.
later on, a couple of months later, he posted this video that was titled, "I saw a tornado in Arizona," and
Mhm.
it was actually a little tiny tornado on the horizon. And so he was right and I was wrong. But anyway, that was how I came to know who he was.
I mean, I think that is really cool though too, and you weren't fangirling or anything. You were just being kind, asking if you could share the space, and he reciprocated. I bet he probably was relieved that was the response, was like, "She doesn't know who I am. Cool. I don't have to worry about, oh, can I get a photo?" Or because the guy
Yeah.
does, out on the plains, you see it all the time where, "Hey, I got to take a picture of Pecos Hank," just like you and I when we saw Reed, and I was like, Liz, I got it. We have to get to whatever this little loves." And actually we were already there for a bust of a day in Western Oklahoma that day. You and I chased together, and Brooke was with us that day, right? I think she
Yes,
was
she was.
in that cha yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we were all there.
And Reed ended up showing up in the dom, and we were, I was like, "Hey, we got to meet Reed." And of course I saw Reed and there was already 100 other people. And I was like, "Reed." And he's like, "Lori, I promised to give you a hug." And so that I was fangirling, but I'm sure Pecos Hank gets that same feeling,
Right,
just like, and he's kind and Reed's kind. Everybody's kind too,
right.
but it's just fun.
I think he was playing up. He realized that I thought he was, a novice, and he was playing that up. He was like, "Oh, have you been doing this for long? Oh, do you know what's his name? Oblinsky, is it?" So
Oh, that's
I think
fun.
he was just playing along because he knows
I'm
who Michael
sure.
Oblinsky is.
Yeah, of course, they're friends. That I just think that that's such a cute story to tell that, I get to see Roger Hill out here. He loves to come down closer to the US border. Roger knows how to chase, even though Roger catches tornadoes all the time. He brings his group down, and I always know my little secret spots where Roger tends. I see that big old van, and I go out and I give Roger a hug too, because he's just such a big sweet guy as well. And it's cool to see that too. And it's just fun that we have those other chasers that do make their way out, and that it I think it proves to me and you that Arizona is worth chasing. The monsoon is worth chasing if that's what you're looking for, especially as a photographer. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, it's totally different from chasing anywhere else, I think. You have to have a whole new skill set, but it's worth it.
Totally. Well, and you have to be prepared to chase pulse storms as well, versus like, there's the supercell. There it is. Go get that one and stay with it because it's going to stay with it. Versus
Right.
there it. Oh, nope, nope. Oh, nope, that not that one. Oh, shoot, I'm 60 miles away and everybody else where I
Yeah.
just left. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like you can wake up in the morning and know how the day's gonna go. You can't do that.
I know that feeling too. Can you share a particularly difficult moment that you encountered and how did that impact it? How did you respond to that? Well, what role has perseverance played in your pursuit in actually deciding to get up again and do it again? How do you persevere through the dark stuff and decide to, pull
Yeah.
yourself up and get after it again?
It is tough because as I mentioned, it takes me good 24 hours to get over those negative emotions. But I
Mm.
remember one day, I think storms were headed roughly north, maybe northwest a little bit, and I was late to the party, and by the time I was getting out of the house, things were already on their way to Phoenix, and so I started
Wow.
chasing and chasing and chasing and hoping I could catch up with it. And it was just by the time I got close to Phoenix, it was obvious it was never gonna happen. So I changed tack. I said, "Well, I've got my camping set up in the back of my car. I'm just gonna
Wow.
go up the White Mountains and maybe camp overnight or something.
No kidding.
Just, forget about the storms." And as I was
Yeah.
going, through, there's a little dip. It's a big dip, actually. It goes down to the Salt River on the way up to the White Mountains.
Well, that
And
one.
as I was
Yeah.
approaching that, there was this amazing rainbow right in front of me, and the end of the rainbow was going down into the canyon, and
Wow.
I got the most amazing rainbow photo that I've never got before, where the end of the rainbow was below me.
Yeah.
So,
That's
if I hadn't
crazy.
sort of given up on the storms, I would never have got the rainbow
Mm.
photo. And then, once I was up in the White Mountains, I actually got a couple of storms up there too. It was once I, said,
Hmm.
I'm giving up. I'm not going to get
Yeah.
anything today. And then I ended up getting something.
Right. So you're saying that you've learned to switch gears if things aren't going your way. I think, God, I don't think I've learned how to do that, Liz. I think I go full bore. I'm a rocket, and I've already been programmed to get to the moon and not to, shoot for Mars or something else. I know it's a dumb analogy, but I tend to go full forward and then I smacked into the wall. Right. I tend to
Right.
I tend to be a train on a track versus being willing to maybe change courses. That's pretty cool.
Right.
Do
I
you
mean,
find yourself?
I think it was because, I'd driven 2 hours. I didn't want those two
Sure.
hours to be wasted. So I thought, what else can I do to make that journey worthwhile? And I said, well, I'll go
That's
car camp
good.
overnight in the mountains.
I'm gonna make a mental note of that I need to learn to adjust course as necessary. I think that's one of the things that I'm weak on when it comes to chasing is that, "No, I didn't get it. I forecasted here," and it just winds me up.
Yeah. It's hard to do that because you've got to make that intellectual part of your brain override the emotional part. It's tough.
So, what is your favorite location to chase? If you could chase anywhere,
I think I have yet to find that favorite location. I mean, I have lots of locations that I'll return to because they're easy to get to, or I know there'll be good storms. But I have yet to find that one location that I love. I know it must be out
really?
there somewhere. I need to do more scouting, but I think that's still
Hmm.
in my future.
I think that where when that one day you and Brooka went out to, you were up in the mountains somewhere near. You guys went all the
Stafford?
way around Safford area, and you came back
Oh
and you were
no,
sending pictures.
yeah. I know what you're saying. Yeah, the day that
Holy
we went
moly!
north and then we came back down to Safford from
Hmm.
north. Yeah, we went almost up to I think up to Oracle and
Hmm.
then back down. Yeah.
Yeah, you all weren't even planning on storm chasing, and again, that area, like, gosh, I think that's given me inspiration to really get out there. I know Flano gets goes out there, other people go out there. I don't tend to make my way that far north too often up into Morenci, I think, and
Yeah.
Clifton and all that area.
It's a commitment because you
It
can't get
is.
anywhere else once you're there. You just have to come back the way you came. So it
Yeah.
is a commitment. But yeah, I think that was the day we got up there and this huge storm started out right in front of us. And I sent you the photo and you
Yeah.
knew there was going to be a haboob
Oh,
from that
yeah. I
storm.
was like, "This is bonker." Oh, that's right. That was the Haboob day, and I was sitting in Patagonia for 3 hours at my little spot, like, nope, nope, a little storm pops up, and I was just like, "Well, I hope that, at least you guys are having fun," and I didn't hear from you because you were way up in the middle of nowhere, and then I just see this photo come through of this giant, beautiful pink sunset storm, it was pinkish, right? And just those wild colors, and then you even got to take pictures with your drone, right?
I
Or
can't
no?
remember. Maybe that time. I can't remember. I need to remember my
I
drone
know.
more often. It's
We
always with
chase a
me.
lot. We really chase a lot. It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I just forget that the drone is there and I can fly it, but I need to get into that habit.
For those who are considering getting into drone photography, you, by the way, you also do real estate photography also, and you incorporate the drone. You work with Casey and his business and all that good stuff. But you capture some incredible. You are a professional at the drone. You can capture the surrounding area of the home, and you get that quality, that commercial quality that someone, a realtor will expects out of that. But incorporating that into your storm chasing as well, would you think it's worth it? What would you say to someone who's going, I'd like to get a drone, but I don't know if it's worth it as far as a storm chasing?
Um, yeah, I don't know if that was the factor for me. I think the factor for me was I didn't know if I would be capable of doing it safely.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up with that sort of game controller with
Hmm.
joysticks. I didn't trust myself to be in control of it enough.
Yeah.
But once you've done it, you realize it's not as hard as they say.
I'm
It's
still scared of it. I still get
Yeah,
scared.
well, I mean, there's always a little, don't fly into a tree and,
Right.
don't fall into a lake. I was way more scared before I had a drone than I am now that I have a drone. You
Really.
just got to get over that, and and don't want to say it's easy, but it's
You're comfortable with it
yeah,
now.
I'm comfortable with it. Drones, entry level drones aren't that expensive.
They're super
And
cheap
hey, if you
now.
try it and you don't feel it's worth it, sell it on to somebody else.
There you go. There you go. In a lot of areas in Tucson, Tucson, Patagonia, uh, or Fort Huachuca, you cannot fly the drone. I currently cannot fly mine in Rio Rico. Thanks a lot, federal government. Oh well, I'm not gonna break the law either, so I'll wait till the TFR is lifted.
Yeah, I can't launch my drone from my backyard, but people who live 6, 8 houses down can. I'm right on that barrier for
Right.
Ryan Field, that little airport.
Wow. Wow. So once you learn the rules, then you're kind of unlimited to what you want to do to incorporate that with the drone, and the DSLR, or the mirrorless camera still is king though when it comes to the best image quality, right? For lightning.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't chase without it. Just doing drone would never cut it with me.
Really? I've
Yeah.
actually wondered, like, should I just focus on the drone? And I mean, you and I have such a setup with cameras and lenses and all the good stuff. And I just wonder to myself because I have to pick it. I have to pick my battle, right? Like you've seen me. Oh, Liz, I'm. They've got 3 tripods out with 3 cameras, and I want to fly the drone. You're like, and you'll tell me, look up in the sky. It's time to go, and there's a green core right above us. I'm like, shoot, yeah, we're about to get hailed on right now. Like, we need to get out of here.
Yeah, then you can land the drone, pack up all the different tripods, and
It's tricky. It's so tricky.
yeah.
Oh my
Also,
goodness.
I mean, for storm photography or videography, I think with a drone, it's got to be video, right?
Right.
Still photo with a drone is not that exciting. And I don't like video editing. I find
Yeah.
video editing tedious and time consuming and not fun. I know that you like doing it, but
It's
I'd
not
rather edit
bad.
photos.
I prefer the photos as well, especially a good crisp lightning bolt photo with a good composition and everything else. And then, of course, I take 300 photos or 600 photos and turn them into a time lapse. So I turn them into video anyway. So,
Yeah,
you know,
but that's not like editing 4 hours of video that you've taken.
yeah, that's not, yeah, I have tons of it that I've been meaning to get to push, onto my channel because I have so much content that I'm happy with and I just haven't gotten to it because I just stay busy and everything else. So, but that is, that's interesting to know, and I have a feeling we're gonna see more drone photography incorporated into storm chasing, so but it's and you spent a lot of money on it, and you don't wanna see it destroyed.
Right.
That's always the biggest fear, and if we're storm chasing, as well as I do that those gust front outflow winds can knock your drone to the ground too, and that's another fear I have is like, "Oh, time to get it down before the winds come in." People don't know that those winds can really break a camera or 2.
Right.
I'm
I mean,
you've seen my camera fall down.
right. I don't know whether this is the case with most drones, but mine will give me a little warning if it senses the winds are too high. It will say,
Wow.
you know, "Land now, land as soon as possible, winds are too high." So, at least it does that.
Mine does too. I get really scared and then I totally like, oh, no, I just head straight home and it's back to me and I land it because it's just too much. As we get closer to the end of here, there are a lot of people that are just getting started. I think people have seen Twisters now, Twister and Twisters, great movies. I still like Supercell, the one that Skip Talbot's in and the one that Alec Baldwin. That's a great movie too. But there are a lot of younger people coming in as well. Is there any advice you would give them who are facing their own challenges and hardships? And is this something that can help them, to grow as a person?
I mean, yeah, obviously social media makes things so much easier than they did when we were growing up.
Hmm.
You can make connections with people that have common interests. Obviously, be careful, stranger danger and all that. Don't
Yeah,
accept an offer to go storm chase with someone you've never met before and who
yeah.
nobody knows. But yeah, draw on that circle of friends and friends of friends. Go out with someone who's been out before. If you go out on your own the first time, you're probably not gonna get great stuff. So if you're not gonna get great stuff, share it with someone and get not great stuff together. But
There's
yeah,
a chaser buddies are good, are helpful,
they
especially
definitely are.
navigating when you got to get from point A to point B and you're trying to focus on the road. But, chasing with a partner or with a buddy, you have some fun stories to tell too, and I think that that's always a fun thing to do. I do like I like to chase alone, especially when I need that mental just that mental refilling that I need sometimes. But I think there's room for all of it, right? There's room for chasing with a friend, a partner, with a group, or meeting up with a group of people. Can you tell us a little bit about the Tucson Storm Chasers? You're one of the admin for this group. For those who are considering, maybe wanting to jump into storm chasing and they're in the Tucson area, how can they start to connect with people?
Well, the group is based in on Facebook. It's the official Tucson Storm Chasers. If you search for it and find it, we're a great group of people. I don't remember how many members we have right now, but active members, we have a fair amount. Most of us have our own little red dots. It's a quiet group outside of the season, but once monsoon starts, you'll be seeing many, many posts a day, right from the morning when people are talking about where they think the storms are going to go, where they might drive to, what they're expecting. And then throughout the day, people will be posting their cell phone pics. Hey, you know,
Right.
where I am right now. This is where I'm set up. And you do get to know people. You get even if you've never met them before, you feel like you know them from their posts online, and then you'll be
Mhm.
somewhere with your tripod and a car drives up and you'll turn and you're like, "That's so
Are
and
you?
so from the group."
Yeah. Right.
It makes a difference.
It really does, and then some of the the occasional meetups and stuff like that are really cool, and it helps people to. I know so many people from the Tucson Storm Chaser group that have come up through the years, and they've gone on to win awards, and they've just improved year over year, and that's such a cool thing to see, right? When you see so many other people, blossom as almost like a flower blossoming in their skills and their ability to capture some unique images too.
I know that you've interviewed a couple of them, and yeah, the social aspect is really important, especially because I think this is the sort of hobby that
Hmm.
attracts people who might have difficulties making social connection otherwise. Can provide a lifeline to some people who feel very isolated.
Definitely, definitely. I know my own neurodivergence. I think there's a special place. I think there are quite a few people in the storm chasing community who also share in those same struggles as well. And I think there's a cohesion because of that, especially with certain people. You can just feel like, oh, I can be myself. And I think that's one thing that separates the Tucson storm chasing community apart from the overall weather community. Is just it's a little more tight knit, and there's not zero drama, but there's not a lot of drama either, and I'm glad that the admins don't even tolerate that. Like, there's no room for that. Let's go chase. Let's shut up and chase and learn from one another. It's a great thing to do.
Absolutely.
Well, I'd like to actually go over the next a couple
Sure.
of images before I let you go here. We did see that one. This one, look
This
at how much lightning is on this thing. Can you tell us a little bit about this and what's so
absolutely.
special about it?
This is just southwest of Casino del Sol. Again, about 5 minutes from my house. The spot that I took this from, unfortunately, is all filled with new houses
Oh,
now.
no.
I forget what year this was. You probably have
Wow.
it there.
2018.
Right. And with my original T1i, my original Rebel camera.
Really?
I actually had 2 cameras going, that one and my 6D, but this is the one that got the
Dang.
best shot. Yeah, in 2019, I wasn't always as aware of distance
Mhm.
as I am now. That was probably a point at which I might have packed up, but,
Wow.
I was just out here. They were starting to build new houses behind me, nice open, Black Mountain there in the foreground. I mean, that night, I probably got 40, 50 photos that I
Holy
felt were worth
smoke.
editing. And the
Wow.
interesting thing about that one is, like I said, I was all on my own, just a few miles from home, nobody there, and I assume nobody else there. And, I think it was about 2 years ago, I saw another photo of this exact strike posted by someone who said, "Oh, back in 2019,
No
we were out,"
way.
and that was Roger Hill.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
so Roger got the
His
same
I think they
long
were
range shot.
probably down a road a little bit behind me, a few 100 yards behind me. I had no clue
Okay.
that they were there.
Right,
I had
right.
no
It's
clue
open
that
desert. Yeah,
yeah,
you can be 100 yards from someone and not know they're there.
right, and I had no clue until, you
That's
know,
crazy.
years later that somebody else had that exact same shot that was out there at the same time as
So
me.
you started looking at that photo and you go, that looks so familiar." Is that what you
I
did?
mean
You're like,
I mean, you're not gonna get those exact strikes.
"For
I mean,
sure."
there's so many of them, and I could look at his photo and I could tell it was and he said what date he took it on, and it was the same day, so it must have been.
That's awesome. How did that make you feel when after you captured that shot? You went home supercharged. Pun
Yeah.
intended, supercharged, totally.
Right, but I will say, back in 2019, we had a lot more rainy days, consecutive rainy days
That's
than we
true.
do now, and so it seemed I don't wanna say easy, but it seemed like, "Oh, it's Wednesday, I've got Wednesday off, there's gonna be a storm, I'll get something."
Right,
And now, you've gotta pick your days a lot more carefully because
right,
there's a lot of days during that monsoon that there isn't even a storm anywhere.
right. It's cloud free and the monsoons, the moisture plume is essentially moved either towards, to the west, or
Right,
it's way over east towards western Texas and southern New Mexico. And you have to be willing to, stretch your arms a little bit and drive the distance out as far as monsoon chasing, or it's further north up towards the Grand Canyon and
right.
Sedona,
And I feel
and
back,
work that.
you know, 2019, that wasn't as much the case. You could get
Hmm.
something close to home, almost
Right.
guaranteed.
That's definitely true. I remember this one. I remember going bonkers when I looked at it. I thought, oh, I mean, that's a decent bolt. The strike is really great. But then I saw that little thing on the bottom right, and I was like, you got to be kidding me.
That shows you the scale of the thing. So the mountain in the middle there, that's called Cat Mountain.
Hmm.
It's, fairly famous. And then down in the bottom right, as Laurie says, you can see that is the casino. And the
I love
casino's
that.
pretty tall,
Right.
so it really brings you that idea. And in fact, if you look hard, you can see there's mountains behind that strike is
Exactly.
lighting up, and those are the Catalina Mountains, which are at the
Yeah.
north of Tucson.
Mount Lemon would be up here somewhere,
Yeah, somewhere up there behind those mountains.
1,200 feet up around here. So way off in the
Right.
distance.
Yeah.
But
So
and
this
then you
is
I'm sorry. I was just saying you got the silhouette of the Wildcat Mountain too, which
right.
is really cool.
And that's something where I think I probably set up in the dark. You hope you're
Yeah,
pointing in the right direction, you're gonna get something nice if there's lightning, but when you're setting up in the dark and you're focusing on a little tiny light in the distance, and
right.
you don't know until the lightning strikes whether it's gonna look composed or not sometimes.
And like this was a big bolt. I mean, this was blown out right within the clouds, which is where it typically does when it's exiting out of the
Right.
clouds. It tends to illuminate a little way too much before it comes out of
Yeah.
there, but you still get all the branches and everything.
Yeah. Would you say that's a positive or not?
I don't know, just because it's so branchy. I always tend to think the positive strikes are the I've told John this, and maybe John told me this, but I always see them as a little T-Rex where they got the little bitty, like little arms way up high, and then it's just a smooth channel bolt going all the way to the
Yeah,
bottom. There's like little branchies those are the ones I tend to see as positive. So I don't know. You never know. But I'm sure when you saw that, that was a really bright strike as well.
it was. Yeah. Yeah. And in fact, when I shared it, I had several people who lived around Tucson saying, I'm sure that was the boat I saw that night.
Wow.
They recognized it, even seeing it from their houses. And this is the first photo that I ever sold a print of.
Nice. Isn't that a great feeling when someone wants to buy your print?
Right. And they bought it because their house is at the base of that mountain.
Nice.
So it was very special for them.
I love that. That to me is better than most of the other likes or shares or, follows or comments on Instagram or whatever. When someone buys a print of your work, man, that's a proud moment. And then you have this one.
Okay, so this was taken on my cell phone. Sometimes you know, I'm
Crazy.
I'm very ambitious, shall we
Mhm.
say. Think that my finger can work as well as a lightning trigger.
So you were
And
going for the lightning? No kidding.
this is just out in the desert outside of my house.
Wow.
And this is one of the times when my finger worked. I think probably that strike sort of had a few returns so that it stuck
Oh, I
around for a
see.
second or
Yeah.
two, which made it easier. So, for me, I think this is a great photo to market the trigger.
The lightning bug plus here. Nice.
Yeah,
Doing the
that's
work on the
Lightning Bug
camera.
Plus, and you can see the red light on the camera
Yeah, it's
shows that
recording.
it has triggered.
Nice.
So I have this photo, of it happening, and then, of course, I have the edited photo that the camera actually took.
Right. I think I have
Somewhere,
that somewhere in there. What happened to it?
somewhere, I did send it to you.
Yeah. I'll pull it up and I'll try to bring that up. But talk about this one. This one is incredible. I'm jealous that I wasn't shooting this wide because you got this shot. Mine, I have a little bit more of the thing, but you got the scale. Holy smoke! I'm surprised we
Yeah.
didn't die.
This was the end of a very long chasing day, and it wasn't all chasing. It was helping other chasers, and, yeah,
That's
it was
crazy.
we were all very tired. and we stopped for gas at a gas station, which actually is probably close to where that struck. And when we stopped at the gas station, we looked at radar and saw that the storm was continuing. I think it was you that says, "Oh, let's go down to the mission." And so we drove down to the mission. Colorado Chasers already
Wow.
there. There were 3 of us, and we set up,
That's insane.
and this just happened. It
I
was
mean,
yeah.
look at, and those were a lot closer. I remember just like wanting to jump into the car, jump into the
It
vehicle. Not that
it
that's going
did.
to do anything at that point. Why do I always jump? Because
Yeah,
it's
it's too
not
late.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah,
It is way too late when that happens.
yeah, but yeah, again, and then this is the 2nd photo I ever sold the print of.
Oh, you did. That's right. I remember, was that at the
Yeah.
museum or somewhere? I don't
No, that was
remember.
someone in the someone on Facebook found me, and she said that she was looking for a print to give to her husband for his birthday, and that he was fond of the mission. They actually lived in Phoenix,
Wow.
and I actually, did a special edit. She wanted it in sepia because all the other
Yeah.
photos in their house were in sepia, so I did a sepia print for her,
Cool.
and we met halfway up I-10, and she gave me money, and I gave her a print.
There you go. And again, that is just that is such a cool feeling to do that.
It is. She was
Oh,
very happy.
there's the other shot. For some reason, I could not find that. But and what about this one? Weren't you with Melissa on this one, if I remember
No,
correctly?
no, this was a solo chase. I'd gone out to almost all the way to Sierra Vista, and I was coming back towards Sonoita,
Okay.
and, I could see that it was gonna be good for sunset,
Yeah.
but I was trying to find a good spot, and I remembered that you had shown me this spot, a little road that goes south from 82, and there's a
Mhm.
bend, and there's plenty of room to pull off, set up.
Funny. I don't even remember.
And this I mean,
It's
this
beautiful.
is where there's no mesquite in the way. There's a few
Right.
little, ocotillo flowers you can see there.
Mhm.
So I set up, and, 5 minutes later, a tour bus draws up, and 10 to 12 other cameras come out.
Oh my goodness.
That was a workshop with John Serlin and Greg McCowan leading it.
Well, I know the curve now.
You
Yeah,
know
I
the
remember
curve,
this shot.
yeah.
Yeah. That's funny.
So and we all, 9 or 10 of us just
Enjoyed the moment.
stood there, and our cameras snapped away, and we enjoyed the sunset. It's not your typical sunset colors. I did
Mhm.
play with the colors a little bit, but I didn't wanna completely go away from the colors that were actually there.
Yeah.
Obviously, the sun isn't all the way down, but, again, it's one of my favorites, and, it won an award, so there we go.
Very cool. I love that, when you see an image, you think, "Oh, that's your best work," and then somebody else looks at it, and then the person who took it goes, "No, this one's my best work," and there's such a meaning to it, and you just can't explain that. There's no way that the human eyes or like I wouldn't have guessed that that would have been something that's one of your favorites, you know?
Right. But, yeah, I did a search recently on my tags on Flickr. I searched, for the tag lightning, and, it came up with 3,567 photos I've taken.
Holy cow, that's awesome. And
So, I
here's
mean
that shot. I
yeah,
think we'll
you
end it
can
with
see I
that so
mean,
we can
it's nice and
yeah.
sharp. The sun is at exactly the right spot. You've got that
Heck yeah.
well-defined rain shaft coming down. The clouds have definition. And, I didn't even have to drive for that. I had to walk maybe 100 yards.
Oh, wow. That's
Most of the time that I capture lightning on my cell phone, which is maybe, what, twice a year, it's nothing
yeah,
special. But this one, it was just happened to be that special one.
I love that. Well, I'm all lost on all these other photos, so well, I'll wrap it up with that because I think there's just so many awesome photos. But I want to make sure that we share if other people want to know where to find your work and to find your photography because you don't just shoot storms, you shoot everything. And I love the images that you capture because you're at the museum. You get the raptors, and when I used to think of raptors as Jurassic Park, not, but smart people, educated people will know what a raptor is and seeing the falcons and the owls and all that cool stuff. Where
Right.
can someone find all your socials?
Well, I'm mainly on Facebook. You can also find me on Instagram and Threads. If you look under Reflected Wisdom, or search Reflected Wisdom, should bring me up. I try to sometimes I even I get so excited I forget to post when I come home in the
I
evening,
know.
but I
Me
do
too.
try and post everything, and, I think my most recent post, because we don't have storms right now, are little prairie dog babies, which are very, very cute.
You have seen so much life come through the museum, the desert museum. The
Mhm.
loss of the mountain lion, I forget his name, Cruz? It was
Cruise?
Cruz. I remembered we lost Cruz, and now there's is there a new there are new, baby lions coming in? Mountain lions?
Yeah, 2 little boys, 2 little cubs, I think they're
Um,
5 months old, and yeah, so, but they're obviously they're not used to people yet, they need a little bit time
sure.
behind the scenes, but eventually they will be back out on exhibit where Cruz was, and we're
Yeah.
hoping that they will live happily together and provide hours of entertainment.
And finding you on Facebook, do they have to look up, just Liz Kemp?
Well, Reflected
Or how did
Wisdom or Liz Kemp,
Reflected
yeah,
Wisdom? Okay,
you can find me either
good.
way.
Awesome. And they can find you on the official Tucson Storm Chaser photography page
Yes,
or Storm Chaser page. Yeah.
yeah, if, before you join the group, you have to answer a few questions, but if you show a genuine interest and
Right.
you're either live in the area
Yeah.
or you're a snowbird who comes down, we'll
Take us Hank,
let
maybe?
you in if you're a genuine person and really wanna learn.
Definitely. Definitely. And I think the coolness of our friendship is that we've run the gamut of just storm chasing and all sorts of cool stuff and bowling even now. And do you have any final words of wisdom to for someone looking to, just get after it?
Just get after it. Just do it.
Right.
But yeah, I would say it helps to at least have some sort of interest in photography. If you're just think, "I'll do it all on my cell phone," you're gonna get frustrated.
Yeah. Right.
Just be prepared to have a little bit of investment in that equipment, and
I like that.
then you'll be so much happier with the results.
Right. And you even showed us with that T1i camera, just the basic kit lens and the basic, you got an incredible image and that's proof positive.
Right,
And
and
so I love that.
in fact, I donated that camera to, a project started by a coworker. It's a nonprofit organization dedicated to, preserving the jaguar in the,
Cool.
US, Mexico border region.
Hmm.
And they're doing a lot of education, with ranchers and school kids, and I donated the camera to them 'cause, they
Wow.
needed one. So, good cause.
Because it still works and it still takes great photos. So you
Exactly.
don't have to spend too much of an investment, but make the investment if you're really interested in it. I like that.
Absolutely.
That's a perfect way to end it. And that'll do it. Liz, thanks again for coming on. I so appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. That's going to wrap it up here. I hope to see you all next time. You can follow, like all that other stuff, like and subscribe. But as I always say at the end, make sure you shine your light while you still have it. I'll talk to you all in the next one. Take care.